A lot of music genres have various forms of human emotion. And there's a lot of people out there that listen to a particular band, song, or artist, usually depending on their current mood. They could either be happy, sad, depressed, or neutral. It usually varies, and like I said, it usually depends on their mood. But in regards to like angry music, I'm what most people don't know is that there's actually two ways to describe that particular term. Like there's good angry music, like anger, music to listen to when you're pissed off and whatnot. But then there's also bad angry music. Music that basically pisses you off altogether, or just at the very least like annoys the fuck out of you if you listen to it too many times. In regards to the latter description that I just mentioned, bad angry music, I'm usually referring to how like god awful the song really is, or like a lot of the that the overrated crap that that's basically overplayed on like the radio on a daily basis. I'm mostly referring to like a lot of the modern pop crap that you hear on like either Kiss FM or any other like radio station that basically appeals to like more youthful listeners. And like for instance, there's Ariana Grande's shit. Like I mean, most of her songs are pretty bad. I'm really not that much of a fan of her at all. And like particularly her song "Favorite Things," which is like more recent. Like that song is almost like played on like 5 times a day, and it's pretty freaking annoying. And like this one song that I also can't stand. It's also overplayed. It's also a more recent song. It's like "Call Me Senorita." It's by whoever sings that song. I don't know, and I don't care to even know who did that song, because that song like annoys the hell out of me. And pretty much anything like by Bruno Mars or Nicki Minaj, that stuff really does not appeal to me. No, that stuff is actually their stuff is actually what's overplayed on the radio, and that's why I can't stand it. And like regarding how it like pisses a certain person off, like depending on their like taste of music, like if somebody like plays those stations at work, and like they are playing those songs like 5 or 10 times, it becomes like a really bad earworm, like to the most irritable like music fan. And like it sticks in their head so long that that they just become like aggravated to the point of they just become so pissed off that their day is like just completely ruined, because that song is just stuck in their head and they can't find a way to get it back, to get it out. And it's hard because the song is played, like I said, is like played like 5 times, and it's not great. And like a lot of that shit, you know that stuff like really pisses me off, in a very bad way. And but there is a ton of good, great bands out there that piss me off in a pretty good way, though. In regards to good angry music, I'm mostly referring to the kind of music that mostly appeals to like troubled like like troubled outsiders, and like just people who are pissed off with the world altogether. And like usually two most common genres that are common forms of angry music is usually metal and hardcore punk. Like certain bands that I like to listen to when I'm pissed off are like Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, Dying Fetus, 6 Feet Under, Cattle Decapitation, or pretty much any like death metal group under the Metal Blade Records label. Metal Blade Records has always, promoted a ton of great bands. Slayer has been with them for a while, and like, you know, there's like a ton of people out there that are like, that are lost, like they're cast out of society, or they're outsiders because they do not like conform to like certain trends that most people who are of like higher standards than they are, that they follow. And like but like music is usually their escape from like the everyday realities of their bullshit society. And like the angriest and most like disenfranchised kid would like crank up old Pantera albums and like earlier Metallica, you know, when like they get home from school and they're pissed off, they could just crank up one of their songs on their stereo. If they go to like a Slipknot concert, they can like mosh pitting. Going into a mosh pit is like the best way to like express raw emotion over being cast out of society and just being like the outsider. And like that's just a great way of like expressing that kind of shit. But what the other thing that most other people don't know is that like while metal and hardcore punk are like the two common genres to listen to when you're pissed off, they're not necessarily the only ones to listen to. See, there's like other genres actually that are good to listen to when you're pissed off. There's like a lot of good like grunge and industrial rock groups that are pretty awesome. There's a lot of like early 90s post-hardcore bands and like early 90s noise rock groups. There's a lot of good bands out there under those genres. I enjoy listening to Helmet, Jesus Lizard, and Rollins Band. Those are three of my favorite groups. And there's like a ton of industrial bands, like you can never go wrong with the old school KMFDM and Nitzer Ed and Suicide Commando. And like and pretty much any band under like either like Wax Trax Records or like Metropolis Records. Those two labels have always promoted like awesome industrial noise rock groups, a lot of which I'm actually still trying to get into more, because Metropolis and Wax Trax have nowadays like become my two vices in regards to record labels. And like and just like some other good bands like Danzig, Quicksand, Archers of Loaf is pretty good shit. There's another band like even like some of like Silverchair songs. Some of their songs are pretty good when you to listen to when you're pissed off. Like Tomorrow, Anthem for the Year 2000, Freak, and there's also that B-side called Blind, which was released in '96. It didn't like appear in any like actual albums, but it did appear on like the Greatest Hits album that I got from Goodwill a few years ago. I love that Greatest Hits album, and I love Silverchair, you know. And like even like you know, but the best band to listen to when you're pissed off, in my opinion, is Alice in Chains. Like if you're both like angry and pissed off, or both like pissed and like depressed, Alice in Chains is always there. Just if you're having problems with your girl, or problems with your friends, or just bombarded by the shit around you, just crank up like Alice in Chains Greatest Hits, Them Bones, and like Man in the Box, any other good shit, that's awesome. You know, I recommend the bands that I just mentioned, and so yeah, bad angry music, most of the pop crap that's played on the radio too many times a day. But good angry music, the heavier, the harder, the edgier, the better. Rock, metal, punk, industrial, grunge, all the good shit. So yeah, that concludes that my description for angry music. And as always, thanks for watching.